My search for the truth had finally borne fruit. Where do I begin? I mentioned that my grandfather knew some important people. He even introduced me to some of them. And I worked up the courage to contact one of those people who works at NASA. Unfortunately, he couldn't help me, but he gave me the contact of someone who maybe could do it. This other person didn't help me either, but they passed me from one person to another, about 10 more, until I finally met this guy who really knew what he was talking about. Well, I didn't meet him in person, just on the internet, but you understand me. Obviously, I'm not going to reveal his identity or more information than what I will share here. He wasn't very nice when I first contacted him. When I asked him if he knew anything about Dawnbreaker, almost hung up on me. Who told you about that you're playing with things you don't understand, boy? Jacob Miller was my grandfather. I answered him. He was silent for a few seconds. I see. I guess we can't hide this forever. I'll help you. Not because you asked me to, but because it's time. But I warn you that there are things that you probably wouldn't have wanted to know. He sent me a flash drive by mail, and in a very convoluted way, he explained to me what to do with it. In the end, the flash drive was nothing more than a decoy. When I took it apart, I found a micro SD card. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing by sharing this on the internet, because what you are going to read will give you many answers, but it will also generate even more questions. The SD card contained a transcription of what was probably a recording in Russian, just like my grandfather's message. I will rewrite the content below, be it. Thank God, it is sorry for the bad introduction. My name is Leonid Ivanovich Tarkov. I am a cosmonaut at the Kamchatka station. Now let's not waste time, and let's get to the point. You know we are here, and that you have been spying on us with your small satellite. Although I hate to give you this information, I hope you use it well, because I have no other hope. In case you are not aware of what is going on, I will explain it to you. We have been here for 2 months. I, Lenko Novak, and Commander Polyakov May. God bless their souls. Our station is small, but it has served us well. It is a small dome with 4 rooms, a laboratory, a warehouse, a machine room, and a living room. Our objective was to investigate the moon and its structure long before the Americans discovered it. We already knew about the anomaly of the craters on any other celestial body. The size and depth of a crater depend on the impact, but its shape is always regular, but on the moon it is not like that. Here the craters are very shallow. They never go deeper. Beyond a certain point, we installed this station in a particularly large and deep crater to try to understand more about this phenomenon. Everything was going well until we started to dig. It was the 64th day of the expedition. We all gathered to see the result of our effort. The drill was a true marvel of engineering, designed especially for this mission. The plan was to drill a hole as deep as possible, ready to start. Comrades, asked Lenko, our engineer, with enthusiasm. We all applauded, and when the drill was turned on, it began to work. The silence turned into buzz, the hum into spin, and the spin into drilling. I felt proud to be here, serving the Union, but I already wanted to return to Earth. This was the first step towards home. After verifying that everything was fine, we began to pack, and we headed home. As always, Lenko was the last, because he acted as if the drill was his son, and he had to watch it. "What do you think is down there?" he asked. While our team reached us, we could detect nothing beyond about 5 meters under the surface, so there could be a layer of very dense mineral, or maybe something unknown, who knows, answered Novak, our geologist. "I think we will find cheese," I joked, and we all laughed. Even Commander Polyakov burst out laughing. We were very mistaken the next day. The drill got stuck. Lenko and Novak went to check it, while I stayed at the base with the commander. He did not talk much, and when he did it was almost always to criticize. He was one of those who are never satisfied, but deep down, he important, surprising, how we think about format. There is a layer of this very hard black material. In fact, the head of the drill explained. "Novak, do you know what it is?" asked the commander. "Not yet. It could be some crystalline mineral formed at high pressure, but we will not know until analyzing it more." The following days were intense. Lenko and I spent most of the time replacing the drill heads, while Novak studied the material. The less he advanced, the more fascinated he became. We were doing maintenance when suddenly the drill plunged down the hole, almost dragging them with him. "Did you see that?" Lenko asked, bewildered. "Of course I saw it." "I almost fell down," I replied. Annoyed, I realized he wasn't talking about the drill, but he didn't say anything else. I looked inside the hole. I took out a luminous rod. I broke it and let it fall. It got lost in a kind of cavity. The rest of the team arrived. Shortly afterwards, the commander scolded us and then congratulated us for the discovery. I knew what was coming. "Then prepare the equipment and rest. Tomorrow we will go down," said Polyakov when returning a cat. Lend the outside team seemed strange to me. I had already done it 2 days ago, but I didn't give it importance. I wanted to stay with him, but he didn't let me. So I went back with the others. A few minutes after he entered, we heard a noise in the airlock. We ran, and Novak looked out the window with a strange expression. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I don't know." "Lenko, do you have any idea what that was?" asked the commander. "No, I don't know anything," answered Lenko. The next day we went down the hole. Polyakov. It was first, and then I shaved about 4 meters to the layer of black material. The space was narrow, and I was careful not to tear my suit with the sharp edges. I continued down about 10 more, met until I reached the bottom. The darkness was total. But when I turned on the flashlight, I saw that we were in a cavern. The drill was there. It had fallen when the ceiling collapsed. We waited for the rest of the team, and we began to explore. After a few minutes, we reached the wall, made of the same material. "Do you have any idea what this is?" "Novak," asked the commander. "I don't understand. It looks like a very compressed glass, but I don't know what it's made of. It doesn't melt or conduct." "Well, the heat," explained Novak. We followed the wall until we went completely around the cavern. The floor, ceiling, and walls were of the same smooth black material. On the way back, we found another opening in the floor with a spiral ramp, and we decided to go down. We reached a smaller cavity, where the tunnels extended in 4 directions. Nobody said the obvious. This was not a natural formation. There were 4 of us, and there were 4 tunnels. One would think that they would divide us as soldiers, not a group of teenagers. So we stayed together. We walked for about 40 minutes, crossing several intersections. It seemed like a maze, and in order not to get lost, we left glow sticks at each intersection. The place was eerie, and the further we went, the more uncomfortable I felt. Something inside me told me that we should not be there when we reached the 10th or 11th intersection. Lenko was no longer at my side. I saw him looking at one of the tunnel's guys. "Stop," I called Lenko on the radio. "What is going on?" He turned to us and said, "I don't know, guys. I don't feel well. We have to go back. Something is not right. Here downstairs." What happened next happened very fast. But I felt it as if I was seeing everything in slow motion. One moment, he was there looking at us, and at next, something pulled him into the tunnel. We ran back, and I wanted to follow him, but the commander grabbed me and pulled me back. "What are you doing? We can't leave him behind," I screamed. "He's gone. If we don't get out now, we'll all die." He replied. He was right. This wasn't our world. What took the Lenko was still with us there down below. We had to get out. We ran back, the way we had come. Running in low gravity was uncomfortable, but at least it was easier, so we didn't need to stop to catch our breath, despite the heavy suits. However, when we got to the next intersection, we stopped. The glow bar was gone. Soon we knew they had all disappeared. At first we remembered the way, but at some point we probably got sidetracked, because we never made it to the spiral ramp. We finally got to what seemed like a dead end. We were going to turn back when we all heard and felt a knock in the distance. Obviously there was no air, so the sound must have traveled through the ground. Novak was the first to panic. "God, what do we do now, Commander? Please, we have to do something. I want to go back home," he shouted over the radio. The knocks were getting louder, or maybe closer. I was also about to panic when I realized that the wall in front of us was not solid. It had a crack from top to bottom in the center. "Help me with this," I said. With several tools, we managed to open the wall that was actually a door. The sound was so close that I thought if I looked back I would see what caused it, but I didn't want to do it. We went through the door and closed it behind us. That was close. "Are you okay?" asked the commander. "How are we going to get out now?" Novak replied. "We will find a way," said the commander. "How, we have no idea where we are." And there, the commander interrupted him. "Let's go to find a way." We walked through another tunnel for a while until we came to a circular room about 15 or 20 meters in diameter. It was filled with rows of black boxes, or perhaps tables. In the center was a 3-sided black pyramid. Again, 4 tunnels stretched into the unknown, just like the previous intersections. What was that place? We decided not to waste time, and went into one of the tunnels. We walked for 4 hours, but our oxygen had almost run out. Shortly after leaving the circular room, I started to feel bad. My mind was foggy, and my legs felt like jelly. I remember we came to a circular room with rows of black tables and a 3-sided pyramid in the center. I didn't realize we had returned to the same room we came out of. I collapsed, panting, fighting for the little oxygen I had left desperately. I took off my helmet took a deep breath, and the cold air filled my lungs before passing out. While I was unconscious, I saw something. I don't remember it well, like when you have a dream and then you forget it in minutes. I saw a being, although I don't remember what it looked like, but I knew I was sleeping. Then a weak voice in my mind said, "Wake up." I woke up and saw Novak. "Wake up." "Tarkov." He repeated, shaking, "that you're okay." "I don't know, but something's wrong with Polyakov," answered. I got up and saw Polyakov standing in front of the pyramid commander. "Polyakov," I screamed. "No," he answered. We started walking towards him with Novak. I fainted when we got here. When I woke up, he was already there without moving. "Then I found you and I woke you up," explained Novak. Polyakov moved his arm and touched the pyramid. Suddenly I realized that he was still wearing his helmet. He couldn't have oxygen. The pyramid, which was already black, darkened even more. I could no longer see its surface, only its outline. It was as if a part of space had disappeared. A black hand came out of the pyramid. I don't know where it came from, but it seemed to extend from. She grabbed Polyakov's arm, and in a blink, she dragged him into the darkness. We turned around and ran towards the tunnel on the right. After running a few meters, I stumbled and fell to the ground, breaking my lamp. The last light of the tunnel disappeared with Novak, who kept running, and I was plunged into darkness. Then I heard heavy footsteps behind me. I wanted to get up, but I couldn't. I stayed lying down, waiting for my end, while the footsteps came closer. Something stopped next to me, and I felt a hand touch my leg. It touched me several times until it reached my face. It was cold. I imagined the same hand that dragged Polyakov to the pyramid, preparing to do it with me. I thought it was my end, but it wasn't like that. "Who is it?" asked a trembling voice. They startled me. "I am Tarkov," I answered after a few seconds. "Thank God I found you. I thought I would die here, alone." He said. I got up and walked together through the tunnel in complete darkness. We walked for hours, maybe days, weeks. At first, being accompanied was not so bad. We talked about our families, jobs, and how we got there to be astronauts. At one point I asked him what happened after he was dragged away. He didn't answer, and remained silent since. Then it didn't take long for me to begin to doubt. How had he survived Lenko? Was it really he couldn't see him? And the fear of being accompanied by something unknown began to grow. I tripped and fell to the ground. "Are you okay?" Tarkov asked Lenko. "I tripped over something." I answered him with my hands. I felt the object. It was irregular, sometimes soft, and sometimes cold. Then I realized it was a space suit. I found the lamp, and after struggling a bit, I managed to separate it from the suit. I was afraid to turn it on. I was afraid to see what was in the darkness, but I did it anyway. The light blinded me at first, but when my eyes met not inside the suit, an iron next to me, our gazes met, and for a second their eyes didn't seem normal. Something wasn't right in them. I was about to give me. I realized what it was when the body next to me breathed deeply. "You're not okay. You got here?" I asked. "I don't remember." "Well," he said, looking at Lenko and then at me. We both got up. "I thought they were dead," he said. "Novak." "We did too," I answered. I was very happy to see a human face, but we weren't finished yet. We had to find a way out. I ran as far as I could until I realized you weren't following me. I wanted to go back for you, but I thought you had left, too. I don't remember well what happened next. My head hurts, just thinking about it. He explained Novak. When I looked at him more closely, I noticed he looked bad, maybe sick. His eyes were red, and he was completely pale. Something was happening to him also. After a few hours, I stopped and rested. I finally fell asleep. But this time I didn't dream. There was only total darkness, which scared me more, because it reminded me of the time I spent in the dark. Something woke me up. It was Novak. He gestured for me to be quiet. I saw Alenko slapping a few meters away. Darkov. Listen, we have to go now. We have to get away from him. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? I answered in a whisper. Tarkov, do you remember the knocks at the, station? He asked. When I looked out the window, I saw something. At first, I thought it was my imagination, so I stayed quiet. I saw a figure in the distance with his back turned. He was walking away, but he stopped when I focused on him properly. Then he turned around and looked at me. It was him. It was Lenko. I took a minute to assimilate what he was saying. Then I nodded silently and got up. We began to walk away very carefully, given something was wrong in that place. Something I couldn't explain. People disappeared and reappeared. If what Novak said was true. The person who was with us was really Lenso. If it wasn't what was I could trust, Novak. Or was he something else I couldn't trust anyone, not even myself? Everything seemed so unreal, and at the same time so real. I had so many questions that I didn't want to ask. I felt like I was on the verge of breaking the walls of the tunnel, seemed to close in on me. I just wanted to get out and go home. But I was so far away. Suddenly I heard a voice behind me. Are you my friend Tarkov? Asked Lenko. I turned around and saw him standing right behind Novak, who was next to me. I didn't know what to do. Of course I'm your friend, I answered. Okay, I looked into his eyes and noticed what was wrong with them. They were black as coal. What are you? I shouted. We are everything, he said, with a chilling and inhuman voice, then opened his mouth unnaturally, and not by the neck, swallowing his head. Novak screamed in pain, but his screams were muffled by the flesh of the creature. I turned to run as I listened to the horrible sounds behind me. I was too scared to look back. I felt it getting closer. I ran down the tunnel until I reached an intersection in the center. There was a spiral ramp. I felt a relief. This could be where we came from. It had to be. I went up the ramp, but the more I went up, the harder it became for me to breathe. I put on my helmet and came to a large room on the ceiling. There was a ray of sun coming through a hole. I finally got out. I was outside, but I didn't have time to celebrate. I had run out of oxygen, only air remained, trapped in my suit. When I put on the helmet, my reserves were exhausted. I began to walk towards the base, but I stopped in. I fell dry on my knees. The base was gone, as if it had never been there. Our two landers were there, but the base didn't. I crawled to one of the modules. I almost suffocated on the way, but I made it to whoever receives this. I am probably the last survivor of the Kamchatka expedition. I am sending this transmission in case I don't make it. I think whatever is there down there had been asleep for a long time, but we woke it up. The module's engine is warming up, but I am afraid it is late. I can see it outside. It is getting closer. God help me. End of recording. Thinking about it. I can't sleep. Knowing that our own moon is something unnatural. Something that hides many terrifying truths. Next time you look at the night sky, remember that sometimes the most mysterious and terrifying things are right in front of our eyes.